Welcome to the Mindset Meets Money podcast, where money makes sense. We provide tactical advice to help high-income earners make logical decisions with their money.
We are at the table with the doctor, Jason Heller.
Hello, hello.
What's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Excited to talk with you again regarding a bias, but I forget which one we're talking about today.
Today we're going to talk about overconfidence and underconfidence.
Okay, good deal. Oh, you don't lack confidence, so talk about overconfidence.
So overconfidence is a cognitive error that leads to individuals overestimating their abilities.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, pretty simple definition. But the way it manifests itself is you'll see excessive trading, you'll see under diversification, you'll see higher levels of risk taking because they know something that other people don't, right? And so think about what that ends up doing to someone's portfolio, right? If you're trading too often, studies, I can't even quote a study because there's so many of them showing how excessive trading leads to lower returns. Under diversification, single stock exposure. How many people have they're so certain that this one stock is going to do so well that they're going to put all their assets in it. I mean, and how often have we seen that just absolutely end in misery? And excessive risk taking. Risks are out there regardless of your level of knowledge. When you think you know better and you can overrun those risks, the end usually ends pretty poorly.
You'll see this with a lot of fund managers that had really good years. They might have been in the press in a bunch, and then they start to think that they're a lot better than they are,
Yep.
and then you'll see them underperform the market significantly for years. They are 50% wrong, but 100% committed,
Right.
To what they
Right.
believe at that point.
Exactly right. And so, overconfidence, this happens a lot with people who they've done well, right? So take investing out of it. The one that I always tie this one up to is, you ever sit at the blackjack table and there's that first timer, and that first timer has absolutely no idea how to play, but the cards run the right way for them and they win the first 10 hands in a row. And they're saying, this is easy. I'm really good at this. No, you're horrible. You've not played by the book yet once. The cards just happen to fall your way. A broken clock is still right twice a day, and now you think you're good at it. You think that there's a skill there when there isn't. And then what happens? They get torched. And not only do they lose everything that they had won, but they lose everything they came to. They probably hit the ATM 2 or 3 times. It's a misery.
Yeah, I love how you always go to blackjack analogies. So between blackjack and Apple, I feel like that's where you invest most of your time and money.
No comment.
So let's talk about the flip side of overconfidence then.
Yeah, so the flip side is underconfidence. And this is not believing in your ability enough. Right? And so what are the problems here? So not believing, you've done the homework, you realize you want to purchase this investment, you can get it at the right price, you think the forward-looking metrics are good, you can prove it, you've done your work, but you don't have enough confidence in what you've done, so you don't pull the trigger. And so you end up with this creates a lot of stagnant still water in your portfolio. People end up in cash a lot. That's an underperforming asset more often than not. The inability to make the decision, even though you've done the homework, because you don't have confidence in yourself or the work that you've done, leads people to do the exact opposite. Instead of excessive trading, it's virtually no trading.
So when I'm sitting here as an investor, it's hard to identify and be aware enough if you're being overconfident and underconfident. And I see this in all different places. So a lot of business owners that I negotiate with, I'm trying to purchase a business or that, and I start to talk to them about their situation. A successful business owner will go jump into other businesses in other industries because they feel like they got a good amount of knowledge and they could be able to go diversify elsewhere, and then they don't get the same returns investment. Or they feel that way when they're actually investing. They've done everything in their business, and now all of a sudden they want to start to be able to invest in another industry or into even the market, and they feel like they know a lot more because they're successful in business. We see this a lot with our doctors' clients that feel like they know a lot more than they do. What's extremely hard in each of those scenarios is to get people to realize that overconfidence bias is there. So when you have a client come in, or as you're helping coach and mentor new advisors, how do you think about helping them and yourself tell a client or make an investor aware that they're a little overconfident in their approach and how they're thinking about it?
Yeah, so I'm actually really comfortable with overconfident people in that arena, in that I would rather them be overconfident and willing to take the move than underconfident and I have to talk them into it. Where I try to draw the line is I want to know why Jeremy, why are you so confident that Apple is going to continue to go up, right? And if you can turn around and say anything other than, well, I just feel like it's got room to go. Okay, that's that. All right, let's stop right there. You might be right, but this is going to create a problem for us somewhere down the road. We're acting on feeling. If you turn around and you say, well,
this goes back to what we always say, qualitative versus quantitative, fact versus opinion. And so it's getting the conversation to be much more fact-based, that has numbers behind it, that has a logic path that can actually make sense, than opposed to the emotional words that might be used.
Yep.
And so helping people understand when they use those emotional words like I feel or I think or I get the sense, using those types of words is not going to should not give you confidence that the direction the way you're looking at something is the right one.
Right. Yeah. If you would come back to the answer, why do you think Apple's going to go up? And you say, oh, well, their revenues are set to grow and here's the reason why. Their PE is below that of market. If you had facts behind that, I'd feel much more confident in your overconfidence on that particular decision, and I'd be okay to go ahead and enact it. On the flip side now, underconfidence, to me, it's much harder to deal with, right? But it's a similar approach. I always tell my clients, if you hear the words "trust me" come out of my mouth, fire me right then and there. I have to prove to you why what I'm suggesting or recommending that you do is the right thing for you. And to me, you can only prove things through facts and figures. You can't prove things through feelings.
Well, I would have a little adjustment to that, right?
My wife would say something, by the way.
I think that the facts and the numbers only tell a partial picture for you to make a decision on what something looks longer term. There's a set of assumptions that are being used, and it tends to be where you have to get down to talking about what are the assumptions you're using in your forecasting, and can we talk about those assumptions are right? So that if they're going to assume that the pipeline for Apple around the AI side is so strong relative to its peers and it's being underestimated, and they're able to pull out a number of different examples from it and show that they've hired a lot of talent from it, then you might say, okay, that assumption makes sense. But if you're able to show where the competition is from a different perspective and assumption, and that they're not going to gain market share from that, then your assumption makes sense. And so I found that people that are overconfident and underconfident, what they have to figure out is what are the underlying assumptions they're putting to the facts, if they actually do have a well thought out process for it. And that's the part you're going to have to challenge around.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. You have to have a plan, or you have to have a well thought out process. The second you just lean back and, well, it looks underpriced.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me. What I tell clients, whether right or wrong, is I'm going to formulate a macroeconomic view, and I'm going to whittle it down to your portfolio. And I'm going to tell you, hey, if this zigs, we're going to zag, and I'm going to tell you why. I may be absolutely wrong in my assumption of what will happen, but I have a plan for what will happen if I am wrong or if I am right. I'm not just sitting there and say, Jeremy, I feel like the 10-year is going to drop, so we're going to go into longer bonds to take advantage of that.
What I found back when I work with clients, or even when I'm working with business owners or financial advisors, and we're talking about something that they believe pretty strongly about, and I believe there's an overconfidence bias or an underconfidence bias, is I use the 5-question theory. And basically, I know if I just keep pulling back whatever I'm looking at by at least 5 questions, if they can't answer at least 5 questions, it's not well thought out. And at that point, they'll realize it, and then they'll be open to listening to you.
Yeah.
If it gets to past 5 questions, now I actually have to debate their theory and really help them make sure, or either convince me their theory is right, or I have to really make sure their theory is well thought out. And even if I don't agree with it, I understand the logic path they took from that.
So you found by having them answer 5 questions, it slowed them down and made them rethink their process. And they got out of the emotional aspect of it and tried to find data to try to convince you.
Because by the third or fourth question, they'll often say, well, I just believe it's going to happen. Or, it's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. I think about it. And then they'll break down and realize that they tried to make a quick decision without a lot of information and became passionate about it.
Yeah.
And really don't know why they're that confident. And me telling them that they shouldn't be confident never works because they dig in. But by me just asking questions, it starts to work out.
So what you did there is what we tell people with every other bias that we've talked about to do internally, right? Is to slow down, try to remove the emotion out of it, try rationalize the quantitative over the qualitative, and you end up with the right answer more often than not.
Right. So when you talk to investors, then and they are being underconfident, which we haven't spent a lot of time on. Oftentimes, these investors are risk averse.
Very.
And so it could be a matter of them not identifying their risk tolerance correctly, where they might be, ultra conservative, and that's how they should be choosing things, than opposed to them just being underconfident. How do you balance between the two, determining what their actual risk tolerance is versus them just not being confident enough with a certain decision?
So the extra conservative, those who are young, have a long time horizon, but still are sticking their 401k money in the money market, right? That could be, again, you have to kind of ask questions. You have to kind of drill down to what the underlying issue is going to be. Is that an underconfidence issue, or is that just a supremely conservative individual? The reaction or the path forward for either of them is similar in that, for me at least, it's about facts and figures, right? Showing a 25-year-old who is putting money in their 401k for the first time what their expected total pool will be at 65 if you stick it in the money market and earn 3% a year versus if you put it in a balanced portfolio and average 7 or 8. That you have to show them that's hard data. That's math. There's no emotion to that. Would you rather this significantly higher pool of money more than likely at the end of time, or would you prefer this very, very small amount? So to me, it's whether it's supremely underconfident or supremely ultra conservative, you have to attack with facts and figures. And the minute you start arguing feelings with people, you've lost that person. You're not going to get through to them.
All right. Well, I think this is a great episode. Hopefully you got a sense of how you might be overconfident and underconfident regarding your investments, and really think about the 5-question approach. If you can answer 5 questions that supports how you feel, you probably have enough facts behind it. If you can't answer those 5 questions going through, your emotions might be helping you make that decision.
I love that. That's great.
Subscribe on your favorite streaming platform if you haven't already, and don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and family.